Alright, let's talk about discovery of America. We're taught this heroic story of Christopher Columbus, a visionary explorer bravely sailing into the unknown to prove the world was around. It's a beautiful fairy tale. The reality is it was a colossal screw up by a guy who was wrong about everything, and it was only a discovery for Europeans because it accidentally led to the greatest payday in history. First, let's get one thing straight. Nobody educated in 1492 thought the earth was flat. That's a myth invented centuries later to make Columbus look smarter. The Greeks had figured out it was a sphere 2000 years earlier. The real debate wasn't about the shape of the earth but its size. The scientists' consensus, based on an incredibly accurate calculation of the Greek geographer Eratosthenes, was that Asia was very far to the west of Europe. Enter Columbus. He was self-taught navigator who thought everyone else was wrong. He used a bunch of bogus calculation and cherry-picked data to argue that the earth was much smaller and Asia was just few weeks sail away. He wasn't a brave innovator, he was a crank with a bad theory who was desperately bad at math. He shopped his terrible idea around for years, and every monarch in Europe with a decent advisor told him to get lost. He was basically the medieval equivalent of the guy with the perpetual motion machine trying to get funding on Shark Tank. So why did Spain finally fund him? Desperation. After centuries of driving Muslims out of Spain in the Reconquista, the monarchy of Ferdinand and Isabel was broke and looking for the new get-rich-quick scheme. They wanted a direct western trade route to the riches of Asia to get their hands on spices and silk without dealing with their Muslim and Italian rivals. Columbus promised them a shortcut. He wasn't an explorer, he was a salesman pitching a flawed business plan to desperate investors. And then came the voyage itself. He was completely utterly lost. He was looking for Japan, he thought Cuba was peninsula of Asia, he thought the people who he met were Indians from the East Indies. He died still insisting he had found the outskirts of China, now an entirely new continent. The man was so spectacularly wrong that he refused to believe reality even when it was staring him in the face. He wasn't a discoverer, he was a tourist who refused to look at the map. So why do we celebrate this failure? Because of greed. His mistake led to realization that his new world was full of stuff that could be plundered. Gold, silver, land, and the whole population that could be enslaved and forced to work. It wasn't a moment of profound human achievement, it was the start of history's biggest gold rush. The discovery was the only good thing for the Europeans who saw a blank check for exploitation. For the millions of indigenous people already living there, it wasn't a discovery, it was an apocalypse. The story of Columbus isn't about courage or vision, it was about a stubborn man with a bad idea who got lucky, stumbled upon something he didn't understand, and kicked off a centuries-long wave of colonization and exploitation, all because he was too arrogant to admit he was lost. He didn't discover America, America discovered him and his greed.